I, female, nearly adult, still live at home. My sister, 28, is married and has 2 kids, toddler and kindergartner. Whenever she comes over to visit my parents, she sticks me with the kids. This wouldn't be a problem, except she doesn't visit for an evening. She'll come for a week, and for that week, I'm an unpaid nanny. If we go out to a restaurant, I have to entertain them because my mom needs to talk to my sister and brother-in-law. You get the picture. My parents decided that since this was my last summer before I became an adult, we would go to Disneyland to celebrate my graduation. I asked who was going, and they said it was just the 3 of us. But when we got to the airport, my sister and her family were there. Strangely enough, they were also going to Disneyland. I went into my backpack and grabbed my passport. I put it in my sock. When we got to international security, I couldn't find it. We looked everywhere. I had to Uber home and I missed my flight. Oh well, I get to stay home alone for a week of peace and quiet. My parents were very mad at me for losing my passport. The money they spent on my flight and entrance was wasted. Darn. My mom and sister posted about how hard it is to be at Disneyland with 2 little ones. They both posted that I ruined the vacation by being so thoughtless. My dad says he knows why I did it, and he understands, but he said I should have just let him know so he didn't waste money. He said he would have gone along with my ruse. I feel bad about wasting money, but I've been to Disneyland before, and I'll go again later by myself or with friends. Am I the idiot for losing my passport to avoid babysitting on my vacation? Reply with, "Oh, I'm sorry I ruined your vacation. If you had only let me know in advance that you didn't, in fact, plan this vacation as a celebration for my graduation as you told me, but only wanted me there as your unpaid full-time babysitter, I'd have made more of an effort to be there." You are not the idiot. Yeah, and OP, let your dad know that if he'd only let you in on their nefarious plans before you all got to the airport, he could have refunded the tickets or not paid for them in the first place. Warning, OP, he's not on your side. He'll go along because anything for an easy life, and he won't care if he makes your life hard. Your dad may support you after the fact, but you couldn't have told him before because he didn't tell you your sister's family was coming before you got there. The wasted money is on your parents for lying about the reason and who was going. Maybe I'm reading too much into the post, but it seems like the mom and sister mostly did the scheming. Dad likely was not in the loop, nor did he try, because these things normally don't affect him, seeing as he wasn't complaining about how hard it is to be with the kids. Likely, he and brother-in-law leave the kids to the 2 women. I could be assuming, but this is often the case. Men are indifferent unless directly affected. Then he's the idiot for that anyway. I'm puzzled. Was going to Disneyland for your graduation even your idea? Or was it a way for your sister to take her kids when she could have free babysitting? I'm disgusted by how people take advantage of others, especially girls and women, for free babysitting. The trip was for the sister, 100%. For making the honor roll in high school, one of my parents suggested going to dinner, and I was excited. Since this was for me, I'd get to pick where to go. Nope. The parents decided where we were going. Turns out my honor roll was just an excuse to go to the restaurant they wanted. OP, your parents are absolutely idiots for baiting you with the promise of celebrating your graduation while plotting to dump the childcare work on you again. Honey, next time dear old sis shows up on your doorstep, have a bag packed and a coat. That's the old trick of always putting on a coat when you answer the door. If it's someone you want to avoid, you can say you were just leaving. Sorry. If it's someone you want to see, say you just got in and take the coat off. I, 38 female, have been divorced from my ex-husband, 40, for 4 years. We have 3 kids together, a nearly adult female, a teen male, and a young teen male. I have primary custody of the kids because we live on opposite sides of the country. We alternate major holidays, and he gets them for 2 months during the summer. He works in the entertainment industry in California, while I live near family in Georgia. Last summer, our daughter decided that she didn't want to visit him during the summer. She didn't want to miss summer with her friends, had a part-time job, and had other summer activities here she didn't want to miss. The three of us talked about it, and my ex was very understanding and supportive of our daughter's choice, even though he said he was saddened and disappointed by it. But he didn't push her on it, and we all came away from the conversation in agreement. This summer is the same thing. She'll be a senior this fall and wants to stay here with her friends again. We had another conversation, and although my ex expressed his feelings and hoped she'd change her mind, he didn't push her on it. Our sons have been with him for about 3 weeks now. Last week, he called me and asked me if I could send him the boys' passports because he wants to take them overseas. Apparently, his colleague invited him and the boys to take a trip on his yacht down the Pacific coast for a couple of weeks, with stops in Mexico and Central America. This was a spontaneous thing. It wasn't planned. To say I was a bit put off by the whole thing would be an understatement. I don't feel 100% comfortable with it, but I understand it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the kids. However, our daughter can't go, and that rubs me the wrong way. I asked my ex if there was any way our daughter could go too, and he said that they couldn't wait for her unless she could make it there by the time they left. Our daughter has multiple activities already planned for that time frame that we've already either paid for or that she was really looking forward to. She was very disappointed when she heard about the trip idea that her brothers would go on without her. So I told my ex that unless there's a way for our daughter to go too, I will not send them the passports or give my permission as primary guardian to take them to another country. My ex gave me quite a bit of pushback on it because he and the boys are really looking forward to it, and he says it's a unique bonding experience that I'm depriving them of. When I told him how disappointed our daughter is about it, he said that if she's old enough to make mature decisions about how she spends her time and doesn't want to visit him, then she's old enough to realize that those decisions mean she might miss out on things that her brothers get to do while they're with him. The boys have been practically begging me to let them go, and I know if I don't let them, they'll blame me and their sister for it. You are the idiot. Your daughter made a choice. She doesn't get to have it both ways. You're ruining your relationship with your sons, and they're absolutely right to blame their sister. Honestly, I feel bad for your ex having to co-parent with you. Sounds like the daughter is the golden child. Exactly. If the daughter was willing to cancel her other plans, she could go. She's not, so she can't. Want to be treated like an adult and make your own decisions? Welcome to adulthood. I cannot fathom how OP can justify this. X isn't saying daughter can't go. She wants them to take a vacation on her daughter's schedule. Very entitled. Why are you punishing your boys for the choices your daughter made? Do you hate them that much? Send the passports ASAP. I assume they have passports because you've taken them out of the country. Don't deny him and his children this experience. You have no legitimate reason to take this away from them. Your daughter chose to alienate her father 2 years in a row. She can't cry about it now. Me, 29, and my boyfriend, 27, were at a party a few nights ago. We met up with my friends. My boyfriend and I have been in a relationship for a year, and we celebrated our anniversary 3 weeks ago. While at the party, one of my friends asked my boyfriend about school, work, etc. My boyfriend has a degree in African languages and works at a nonprofit. I had a few drinks, so I called my boyfriend's degree useless because he doesn't make much money at his job. In a funny way, of course. Most of my friends laughed. One friend told me it was an idiot thing to say. My boyfriend wasn't happy either, although his degree really isn't all that useful. Ever since my boyfriend has been kind of cold, and I feel like an idiot. Edit. I have a degree in accounting. In a funny way, of course. I'm struggling to think of a funny way you could tell a group of people You think your boyfriend's choice of education or career is useless. What exactly do you do for a living? I can't imagine why your boyfriend wasn't happy about your comments. Don't be surprised if he doesn't stick around long enough to celebrate a second anniversary. You're terrible. You are the idiot times 10. I'm embarrassed for you. Even more so that you think you were at all funny when you publicly mocked your boyfriend's accomplishment. You likely made everyone uncomfortable, which was the awkward laughter you received. You see yourself as superior to him. You're not. You're pathetic and likely soon to be single. Your boyfriend's degree sounds fascinating. You sound like a total bore. Ha ha ha. You wasted your time by getting a degree that interests you. Good grief. You're insufferable. Break up with him then. You don't like him. Also, not every degree has to be job training. Outside of a few specific fields, engineering comes to mind, your degree may have nothing to do with your job, which is fine. The idea used to be that school taught you how to think and learn, and then your employer taught you the specifics to do the job. My wife and I have a toddler son, and we're expecting our second child next year. Both our children were conceived via IVF. We spent years trying for our first, with no success, and it took 4 cycles of IVF to have him. It was brutal on my wife, but we both felt like trying for biological children was the way to go for us. We tried naturally for a second child after our first turned 1, but had 0 luck. We were left with the money for 1 cycle of IVF, which we decided to pursue if we didn't have any luck naturally, which we didn't. Around a year ago, my wife and I were gearing up to start the ball rolling on our IVF journey when my sister came and asked if she could have the money to try IVF herself. My sister has no bio kids, but does have a tween stepson. She has endometriosis and PCOS and has never been able to have a child. Her stepson is not very close to her, and they've had problems with him since the start of their marriage. Her stepson has always mentioned that his dad married again too soon after his mom died, and how my sister's trying to replace her. He's run away from home 3 times already. They also had the police and CPS on their door because he tried to get removed from their care. Our main reason for saying no is we wanted to give our son a sibling, but I can't lie and say that the dynamic in our home wasn't on my mind too, and I wasn't sure bringing a new baby into their home was a good idea when things were as bad. She was very upset with me for turning her down. She said she had no kids and we already had 1, and we'd give her a chance if we gave her the money. I shut her down. I told her my answer was no, and it was final. We waited for my wife to be far enough along before announcing our last IVF cycle worked. We did this at a family dinner. Everyone was so happy for us, except for my sister and her husband. She started making snarky comments about how it was no big deal when we already had a kid. I told her that given our struggles, it was a big deal. Our parents told her she should be happy for us. She then starts ranting and raving about how selfish we are to deny her motherhood and to deny her and her husband the chance to have a family together. Our other sister pointed out her stepson. She told her she's not his mother and he hates her guts, so it's not like she'll ever get any joy out of mothering him. I told her I was sorry she couldn't have a biological kid, but she didn't get to demand we sacrifice a second child for her. She then told me I held her stepson against her. I told her I couldn't say that it hadn't crossed my mind that bringing a child into a complicated mess would be a bad idea. But that was beside the point, because we wanted another child. She told me I was an idiot for humiliating her in front of the whole family and picking a fight with her. I told her she picked the fight, not me. But I did engage. So am I the idiot? Holy crap, not the idiot. It's your money, end of story. Why does she feel so entitled to it? Like you both want to buy your kids so bad, you can both go out and get second jobs to fund your IVF. Dear Lord, that's insane. You didn't deny your sister anything. She's not entitled to your money. If IVF is something she's interested in, she and her husband can figure out ways to raise the funds. They shouldn't expect to be handed them. I know IVF is absurdly expensive, and my heart goes out to those who choose to go that route. But kids are also expensive after you have them. Does she plan on asking for money then too? And getting mad when she isn't helped? There's already a child in her household too. It's easy to see why he feels like he does about her, since she discounts his existence. And good grief, if things are bad there now, they would be much worse if she introduces another child into the home. Ahem, one she would consider her real child. The only thing you could do better is tell her in private earlier, but that's not really why she's angry with you. The public announcement is nothing but more oil on the fire. About 2 months ago, I, 25 female, began renting a room in my house to a student, 19 female, at the nearby college. Originally, she was just staying for the summer, but decided to stay for the coming school year as well. We're the only people living in my house. My boyfriend visits a few times a week. She and I get along quite well. I'm not a strict landlord or anything. In the contract, it says she can have friends or guests over within reason, and she's been good about it, up until recently. She and her boyfriend split up about a month ago. She didn't seem too upset, as it was a long time coming. She's been back on dating apps and has been bringing guys over, usually to spend the night. At first, I was okay with it. She brought someone home maybe once a week, but now it's increasing, and I'm starting to feel uncomfortable in my own home. Just this Saturday, I went downstairs for breakfast and ran into a stranger just casually making himself some coffee, using my mug, as if he lived there. The awkwardest thing was that he started checking me out and asked if I was single. When I asked her who that was later, she said it was someone I met at the club. I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable in my home and wonder if I would be the idiot for telling her to tone it down a bit. Like, I can't sleep well at night knowing there are random men in my house. Once a week is reasonable, but 3 to 4 times is a bit much. My boyfriend thinks I should talk to her because even he's uncomfortable with all the strangers entering my home. Edit. My tenant/roommate brings hookups 3 to 4 times a week to my house, making me uncomfortable. Not the idiot. Normally, a tenant gets a ton of latitude about overnight guests, with just restrictions on how many nights a week. But when you're sharing your kitchen and bathroom, your landlord sets the rules, and the tenant decides if they like them. Tell her no more overnight randos. She lost that privilege when she let in a creeper who hit on her in her own kitchen. While this is true, it has to be before the lease is signed. Unless these stipulations were in the original contract, this sort of limitation would get you firmly on the wrong side of tenant law in a lot of places around the world. Most courts would find that the tenant was reasonable here in terms of expectations of the contract, even if we socially would call it the opposite. No way. This is not a landlord-tenant relationship. She's a lodger. There is way more latitude to kick out a lodger for reasons way more trivial. It is dangerous to have strangers wandering around the house at night. She also shouldn't let them go around the house on their own. One of these dudes is going to steal your stuff, or worse one day. From the moment you rent, it's not just your home. It's hers too. So you are the idiot. You can have a talk with her, but you can't demand, and she can say no. Within reason doesn't mean anything. Yup, I wouldn't want potentially 15 new dudes each month, knowing exactly where I lived. Still, good luck clarifying the definition of within reason, since it isn't specifically explained in your tenant agreement. Hopefully she'll understand. I'm a nearly adult female. My parents split up before I was born. Custody is, I live with my dad most of the time, and my mom every other weekend, plus random staying with her if I want. Recently, my dad got engaged to Hannah, and she and her kids are moving in. Hannah's kids are tween, pre-tween, and 3 toddlers. She's widowed, so they live with her full time. This made room arrangements a bit awkward since there were only 3 kids' bedrooms to go around. Dad and Hannah talked it over last night without consulting anybody, and Hannah came over this morning to announce to my dad what they had decided. Apparently, they want her 2 oldest to each have their own rooms and me to share with the triplets because my room is significantly bigger than the others, and I don't stay there full time. I said their plan was stupid. They wanted me to share with 3 toddlers. They said they didn't want me to move, but it was the biggest room, so other people should share. I said I didn't care if I switched rooms, because the more logical move would have been the triplets in the big room, and the other 2 share, and I get my own. I said I'd take the smallest one until I move out. They said moving my things to another room would be more work, and their idea was more practical. Then they asked why I was so pressed, since I don't live here full time. I said not staying in the room 4 days a month was a sorry excuse to land me with a bunch of toddlers, and if they seriously plan on doing that to me, I'd make the custody arrangement change, and I'd stay with Mom for the most part and make Dad pay child support. I know she doesn't mind me living with her because they both remind me that I could stay with her whenever I wanted. This made Hannah cry because she just wanted her family to blend nicely, and I was apparently ruining her plans. This made Dad mad at me, and I'm not allowed to talk to Hannah until she forgives me. I didn't know this meant so much to them, but I'm still saying that I'll stay with Mom longer if I have to share the room with toddlers. But my dad made me feel a bit guilty. So, am I the idiot? The witch is not crying because she wants a blended family. She's crying because she wants a nanny. Not the idiot. They know what they're doing to you. They only act like they don't. You sharing with the triplets makes you care for them at night and as soon as their bedtime begins. It is not practical at all. Where should you hang out between them and your bedtime? Living room with them? I would assume your dad simply doesn't actually care if you're there, but they want you to be the bad guy. Yeah, I don't think any adult man is naive enough to think a teen with 3 toddlers is practical for the teen at all. 4 kids in one room can only be cramped. OP wouldn't be able to have friends over, ever, etc., etc. It wouldn't be much different as OP having no room and sleeping on the living room couch. Don't be silly. OP's father doesn't know or care. He's oblivious to any of it. He just wants what his new bed warmer wants, because only when she's happy will he have intimacy. Other than that, you're right. It's obviously the best way for Hannah to have a live-in nanny for free. It's not about her family blending at all. It's always maddening to hear when kids get replaced by the new partner's kids. Dang, at least the evil stepmother waited until Cinderella's father died, not just instantly making her a free maid. Move to your mom's OP and let Dad pay child support to her. He's being awful to you, and I wish you well. Unfortunately, your life will look a lot different for the foreseeable future with respect to how it used to be with your dad. I, 28 female, bought my first house. It's in an okay neighborhood. Lots of people with young kids and all that American dream stuff. I'm also an alcoholic. I've struggled with it since college. There are bad times and better times. I see a counselor. Living alone, I don't feel the need to hide away the truth of my alcoholism anymore. I can just come home with a bottle of wine and nobody's there to judge me. It's actually meant that I drink less overall. The shame fuels the drinking. We had a windstorm, and my recycling bin went on a little trip down the street. I grabbed it when I got home and laughed about it with my neighbor. There were the results of a bender, and she asked if I had a party. I said no, this was just me. She said, "They pick up the recycling weekly. You don't have to keep it for so long." I said, "I know. This was just from the past week." She looked at the bin again and said, Oh, wow. Okay. She asked whether I needed to talk to someone, etc. One of the neighbors misread the vibe and joined the conversation, which I'm not mad about. This is that kind of neighborhood. I didn't want it to become a whole thing, so I said, I'm an alcoholic. You might see a lot of bottles occasionally. Both women were really surprised, and the first one backed off and said that it was really disturbing that I would just come out and say it like that, like it was something that I was proud of. I said that living in the shadows in a life of shame hurts, that it makes things worse, and that I choose to be honest about my addiction because I'm not ashamed of who I am. She said that my issue isn't something to make light of or to glorify. I told her I would never glorify it. She said that going around laughing about it flies in the face of everyone who's ever survived a life with alcoholic parents. I told her that I was sorry if that was her experience. Genuinely. She said if her kids wake up to see me passed out on the lawn, expect problems. Parading around here proud of my problem is trashy, and they don't need that here. Later on, the second neighbor came to see me and said that I had really upset the other woman, that I've put a target on my back, and that my attitude toward my illness will definitely rub a lot of people the wrong way. I said that I understood, but explained the thing about shame to her. She said that I would never have to worry about her judging me, but to watch out for that woman's crew. Not the idiot, but I strongly suggest that you tell people that you're an alcoholic who sees a counselor for treatment, rather than saying that you're an alcoholic who doesn't want to hide it. The former shows that you want to change, while the latter can be interpreted as that you're fine with not changing. Definitely let your neighbors know about your counselor the next time anything is mentioned regarding drinking. I wish you well. Yeah, OP should have told the neighbor that they were seeing a counselor when she asked if they needed to talk to anyone. That whole interaction probably would have gone very differently. I can see why it would be shocking. I've never heard someone say that they have issues unless they were already sober or on their path towards sobriety. The way you said it, it seems like you've just accepted it and you're going to keep drinking. How is that any of the neighbor's business? The neighbor asked multiple prying questions about OP's drinking when they were just trying to take their recycling out. The neighbor was literally looking through OP's trash and then demanded an explanation for the trash. It's none of the neighbor's business how OP relates to their illness. Why would you not just say, "Okay, thanks," when your neighbor mentioned bringing the recycling out every week? That would have ended the conversation there. It seems like you wanted to have this conversation, whatever reaction it brought about. That's fine, and you're not the idiot for being honest about your problems, but it 100% felt purposeful to start a conversation that ended unsurprisingly by responding the way you did. And when someone presents themselves as unapologetically an addict without the addition that they're in treatment, the implication, even if this isn't true, is that you aren't working towards recovery, which is scary or concerning for neighbors who live next to you. My little sister, 21, is constantly losing things, but her keys are the main culprit. She loses them around the house, but at least 50 times since she's been driving, she's lost them in public, and a few of the times have been very scary because she got herself stranded. In early June, she lost her keys and had to pay a ton of money to reprogram her remote lock. Last Friday, she lost them again in a grocery, but was lucky enough that the cashier found her and returned them as she was frantic in the store. So I made a little tag that had her name, phone number, and address so she wouldn't have to replace them again. Earlier this week, she went to Six Flags Great Adventure with some friends and truly lost her keys. When she got home, her car was gone. Yesterday, the police found her car completely chopped with the key in the ignition, but her house keys and work keys were gone. I hope it's obvious what the police think happened. She's furious with me, and my parents are also mad, saying I should have minded my own business. She knew the little tag was there, and she even thought it was a good idea. I don't know if I'm the idiot because she's the one who lost her keys again, but it was my idea that backfired. Am I the idiot? Edit. My dad already did her apartment, but her work wants to charge her to rekey because the police said that they probably know where she works from the work uniform that was in her car. OMG, that's stupid. Why on earth would you put a name and address on a set of keys, especially a set of keys that has been lost hundreds of times? That's just asking to get robbed. Tell your sister to get a lanyard and attach the keys to herself. I know it's harder with women's clothes, but if she wears pants with belt loops, those are perfect. Does she have a condition that contributes to her losing her keys? She's lost the keys 50 times? That's not normal. And if I personally lost my keys more than 5 times, I'd be hitting up a doctor and getting some answers. But, darling, what were you thinking? You can put a name, telephone number, and email there, but the address? Holy cow. Listen, you had a really stupid idea. Incredibly so. The fact that your sister didn't recognize it as a terrible idea doesn't say much about her judgment either. Why didn't you add her social security and date of birth for good measure? Consider adding her debit card number and security code while you're at it. You are the idiot for being so dumb as to put a freaking address on a car key. If your little sister's 21, you should be at least the same age, if not older. That's more than old enough to know not to include a written invitation for a break-in or for a stolen car. OP, what you did wasn't helping your sister in any way to lose her keys less. It only put her in danger in case she did. I, 19 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 25, for 5 months now, and he's amazing. However, one disagreement we often have is over housework. My boyfriend thinks that I should do housework, seeing as he works 48 hours a week, and I only work occasionally. I've always refused. We don't live together. We live in separate houses and pay separate rent. I afford rent through my university student loan and tutoring and babysitting part-time. So in my opinion, I have no reason to clean his house when I have my own that I pay for. My boyfriend thinks it's unfair that I don't work, yet have enough money to rent. In his eyes, I should do household chores for him because he's the breadwinner. The thing is, I don't see him as the breadwinner. He doesn't pay for my rent. I do. We aren't married, and I'm still in education. I can't tell if I'm being unreasonable. I cook for him and occasionally help with chores, but I refuse to be a full-time maid for him. Then again, he works so hard, whereas I only work a few hours a week. So, am I the idiot for refusing to do housework while my boyfriend goes to work, even though I don't have a job? Not the idiot, but he's a huge red flag. OP, this is not a normal request at all. 5 months into a relationship, and he's already talking about being a breadwinner and trying to distribute household chores and rent when not even living together? That's bat crap insane. Block him. LOL. I was all ready to call her the idiot until she said that they don't live together. What? Who in their right mind thinks their SO should be cleaning their house because they happen to have more free time? The guy is incredibly entitled. He doesn't want a girlfriend. He wants a servant. When I was in college, I had a boyfriend who insisted that I do his laundry. We lived in separate dorms on separate parts of campus, and I studied 4 times harder than he did. He would keep asking, "When are you going to do my laundry?" He also had the sick belief that if we got married, I had to bear 7 children for him. After I dumped him, he called my parents to get my sister's phone number, then called my sister, telling her that something was mentally wrong with me because I broke up with him. She responded that everyone in the family thought something was mentally wrong with me because I was dating him. I love your sister's response. He wants an intimacy maid, a cook. Soon it'll be, you gotta pay part of my rent too, since you're here all the time, cleaning my crap up. OP, A 25-year-old wanting to date a literal teenager usually signals that the 25-year-old is both immature and controlling. Case in point, you're not his bang maid. Do you really want to waste your early 20s with this guy? 'Cause he sounds lame. Also, if you do make the mistake of moving in with this guy, mark my words, he'll become even more controlling. Good point. By 25, most women have been in enough relationships where they can't be tricked into keeping a guy's house that they don't even live with. He knows he has to go young to find someone who will tolerate this. Please dump this loser. Our late mom, 67, died in a car accident 2 years ago. My brother, 32, had been staying with her for nearly a year due to his inability to find a job. He's been in and out of her place for years. He would find a job, not keep it for more than a few months, and move back in. I suspect alcohol and other issues, but our mom is very overprotective of him, so I don't know the whole story. My sister, 42, and I, 36, both want to sell the house, since the market was good, and distribute the money equally between all of us. The three of us split 3 ways. Mom didn't leave a will. That means around $230K per person if it's sold at market price. But before that, we wanted to replace the flooring and repaint it. We both live hours away, so I would hire a guy. My brother refused to let him enter and also refused to let us sell by essentially squatting there. We didn't know what to do because he refused to move out and wanted us to let him live there for free until he got a job. We agreed he could stay there for 3 months for free, but he never found a job. Or maybe he did and just didn't tell us. We waited another 3 months before deciding we had to kick him out somehow. We tried to visit once, and he barred us from entering, saying we didn't tell him early enough we were coming, even though we told him 2 days ago. We agreed to offer him 10% more of the inheritance than his share if he left. I was pretty sure he would take it since he was broke. Nope, he refused to move, saying he had nowhere to move to, and we should just let him stay, and he would take care of the place for us. Finally, we decided to talk to a lawyer, and he said we had to give formal eviction notice. So we went that route, and it took 8 months. He also painted the rooms black, and we paid a lot of money for painters to restore the original color. We got a pretty good sale for it and gave him his amount. I still get random calls of him yelling that we ruined his life. I'm done with him, and frankly disgusted he refused to leave on his own. But am I the idiot? Edit. He left a huge mess, trash everywhere, which a cleaner cleaned up, and we deducted from his payout. Also, lawyer and painter fees. He went to a hotel for the 2 months it took us to fix up the house and sell. He got the money after we removed the hotel costs from his portion. He demanded a nice hotel with a pool. The lawyer was the best route. Block his calls and emails. Not the idiot. Unfortunately, there was no other action you could have taken that would have made him happy besides just giving him the house he didn't deserve. Your brother really needs help, and I hope he can get it. I hope he doesn't squander that inheritance on liquor and stuff. This is a great opportunity for him to get his life together, possibly. $230K can go a long way, depending on where you live, and hopefully give him a buffer to get his act together. Also sounds like he has no support system in his family. Yeah, well, he's a 32-year-old man. He had time to get his crap together and was also given opportunities to do so. He got screwed by his mother's coddling and enabling, but he's an adult. Maybe being homeless and realizing he can't run to mommy will encourage him to stop being a bum. He's presumably getting a lot less than $230K since they took lawyer fees, hotel, and work that needed to be done to the house out of his share, and rightfully so. He's lucky OP didn't deduct 8 months' rent.